In my experience, the government at both the state, the federal, and the local levels have initiated a lot more criminal investigations where the focus is on trying to get back money. There's been a proliferation of these white-collar cases, and a lot of people who would have never been caught up in the whole criminal justice system, law-abiding people, married families, all of a sudden, they're getting caught up in something that, they were involved in, which they may not have even thought was a crime. And there's a substantial amount of money that's involved, either benefits that they've received over a period of time or not. And the government's in today's day and age with, always a chronic shortage of funds, they're always looking to go out and follow the money. And once they follow the money and they're able to identify that a particular individual has hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in bank accounts, stock accounts, assets, real estate, etc., well, they typically in these cases would bring a forfeiture action. And so now, as a result of your client getting arrested on a white-collar case, which could be anything from a sales tax case to an income tax case to a fraud case to a stock fraud case, because you're a successful businessman, you've been able to accumulate assets. And now the government sees these assets, and that's a windfall for them. So they go, and as part of their indictment against you, they bring a forfeiture action and they freeze all your assets. And now for the entire pendency of the case, your assets are tied up. You can't get your own assets. All right, so now you're fighting on two fronts. You're fighting to get money released so that you can live the life to continue to pay your mortgage, your car bills, your kids' education, as well as defend the case. You can't defend the case and hire an attorney if you don't have access to your funds. So it's very important, if that happens, to make sure you have an attorney that can go and sometimes negotiate with the government the release of certain funds so that you can at least live your life. Because in our system, there's a presumption of innocence. Even though I've been arrested for a crime, doesn't mean I'm guilty of that crime. You may think I've done something wrong, all right, but I have a defense to what you claim I may have done wrong. But it's going to take a year to prove that, because the case is not going to get over in a month or 2 months or 3 months. And if it's a complicated case, which typically these, white-collar cases are, because they're involving the element of intent, and intent is what was in the defendant's mind at the time he's doing something. That's usually what these cases turn on. That's something that's difficult for them to prove. It's a high proof for them, and it can take a long time. So you want to make sure that your client is going to be in a position to defend himself, and he needs resources to do that. Not only to hire an attorney, but to hire expert witnesses. You're going to need, usually in these cases, forensic accountants. You may need psychiatrists. They're going to need an investigator. So there's going to be a whole team that we're going to need to assemble in order to defend against these cases. Because the government has people working on these nonstop. And the only way that you're going to be able to measure up with that is if you can assemble your own team to do that. And a lot of it, unfortunately, comes down to resources. And if you don't have the resources to muster, you're starting out behind the 8 ball. So if they forfeited assets, we want to try to work to get some of those assets released so that you can hire an attorney, so that you can continue to pay the bills as they've come due, and that you can defend yourself.